I would like to take a step back. At our core is the inviolable presence of God. Hi everyone, Angelo here. I'm a creative and theologian, and Merry Christmas. So there are like 4 different gospel readings for today, from Matthew, a couple from Luke, and from John. So I took a step back and pulled from all of them since I didn't want to focus on just one and neglect another. And that's why I want to approach this reflection today, meaning that I would like to take a step back. I think it's important for us to take time to take steps back and to withdraw. And not only just for balance and a healthy well-being, but it also helps us to put things into perspective. And taking a step back can really help us to reflect on the various readings for today. It can help us to reflect on our year, this year, 2024. And it can help us to reflect on our whole lives. And because of this gift of Christmas, it is when we celebrate God becoming human. And as to whether or not this is the only instance in history when God might have become human, I mean, I'm not going to be the one to limit God. But because I am a Catholic, I do see life through Christian eyes. And for us, this celebration, this Christmas celebration, this celebration of what we will call the incarnation, meaning the Word became flesh, God became human, this is fundamental to who we are as a people. It's when we acknowledge that God so loved and loves creation that God chose to enter into relationship with creation in this special way. And when we take a step back and we reflect on that, it can move anybody to tears, really. Yeah? Believing that we are so loved that by God, that God chose to be with us in this integral and unique way. So as I was sitting in church this evening, because I ain't too long come from church, I observed a few things that I feel like could help me articulate this Christmas message. And one of the first things I noticed was these 2 images of Jesus next to each other, meaning that I was looking at the infant Jesus, baby Jesus, as well as the crucifix, Jesus on the cross. And it's like I'm looking at the beginning and the end of his life all in the same space and all telling this powerful story. And I mean, of course, we know Jesus' story, right? 2,000 years after the fact. And also, of course, we know the Christian story because we are the ones who continue to write it. But who could have ever imagined this little baby ending up the way that he did? And I will simply mean moving from being a little baby to experiencing the death penalty. But past that, meaning that he was glorified in the resurrection. And within that time too of contemplating and reflecting on these 2 images next to each other, I also noticed something else. There was this little boy, he could have been about, I don't know, give or take about 10 years old. And he was wearing a t-shirt, and on the back, well, I was sitting behind him, so on the back had some words on it. And 2 of the words that struck me from his shirt was endless potential. And that's what Jesus was for the world, endless potential. And in all the adoration that was taking place, we could say like within these 4 gospel readings here, I wonder if anybody could have guessed about Jesus' potential. I mean, of course, they mentioned Mary pondering these things in her heart, right? And maybe, perhaps, parents are able to look at their children and see their endless potential. I mean, I can't speak to that yet myself. But as an educator, I can look at my children and acknowledge that they all have endless potential. And I can't explain that in detail, but it's something that I know, like I feel that, and I don't believe anything more like to be so true then. But God knows the endless potential that is in each of us. And Jesus was able to show that through his own life. Because his life wasn't just life and death experiences, but rather his life, or his story, where we will understand his story, was life, death, and life. And he woke us up to our own potential of that. And we can truly realize what that means by taking a step back and reflecting on our lives through the eyes of God who loves us. And that's where our major hope lies. Because we believe in a God who knows us intimately. And this knowledge isn't just an intellectual knowledge, but more than that, it is an experiential knowledge. So it's a knowledge that is rooted in our own human experience. So divinity knows what it means to experience humanity. And more than that, divinity woke us up to know that we can experience divinity here and now. And that experience is worth absolutely everything. It's an experience worth taking off your sandals for, like how Moses would have had to do. It's an experience to leave behind your routines and livelihoods, sometimes even, like how the shepherds would have had to do. And it's an experience you travel the distance for, like how we know the Magi would have to do, what we read in a couple of weeks, I think. It's an experience of going the distance and following the stars and following your dreams. And what we find when we take a step back from all the routine and busyness and everything in our lives is that we get to know that God's divine presence is in us. We find that God's Holy Spirit is central to our identity. So when as Christians we say that humans are made in God's image and likeness, what we can find is that when we observe long enough, we realize that at our core is the inviolable presence of God. Emmanuel, God is with us. God is in us. And at that point, that's when we could start to take more active steps to building and participating in that human divine relationship that we can all experience. It helps us to enter even deeper into the endless the endless potential of our relationship with God as individuals and as a community. So my hope for us this Christmas is for us to experience God as God means for us to experience God. My hope is for us to see God and to be seen by God. And from there, share that gift with everybody. In the same way that Jesus came and emptied himself for all and lived his life as a living sacrifice for everyone he would have encountered, we too, as the body of Christ, we should be continuing that healing and that saving work, that salvific work that Christ would have started. And whatever that means for you in a practical sense, only you can come to know that. But I'll tell you what though, it does help to take a step back and reflect on everything. Anyways, that's it from me. As always, I appreciate you so much for watching. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.